We never expected to find armed strangers deep in the woods behind our property, especially not during what was supposed to be a quiet weekend. But early that morning, something felt off. Our dogs were restless, the birds had gone silent, and then we heard the distant crack of a rifle. We grabbed our gear and headed out, thinking maybe a poacher had wandered too far. What we found stopped us in our tracks. Two men, rifles in hand, standing over a freshly killed deer. They weren't lost hikers or hunters with permission, they were from the HOA board. We couldn't believe it. These were people we'd seen at community meetings, now caught red-handed on our land with weapons, no permission, and no tags in sight. The tension was thick, and just when things felt like they could explode, the sheriff's truck rolled up. But the real twist: instead of immediately confronting them, the sheriff walked straight over and caught them mid-act, trying to dress the deer like they'd done it 1,000 times before. Why were they really out there? Were they hunting illegally, or was there something more going on behind the scenes? We started filming, and what happened next left us with more questions than answers. Stay with us, because this story takes a turn no one saw coming. We've owned this land for years, and we know every tree, every trail, every sound the forest makes. That's why we knew something wasn't right even before we saw them. The HOA had always been a bit controlling. They'd complained about our fence height, the color of our barn, even where we parked our tractor. But trespassing with rifles? That crossed a line we didn't even know existed. We didn't want trouble. We followed every rule, kept to ourselves, and stayed respectful. So seeing two HOA board members out here, acting like they had some right to our woods, rattled us. The sheriff, who we've known casually for years, didn't seem surprised when he saw them either, which was strange. He didn't ask many questions. He just looked tired, like he already knew this wasn't the first time. As the men fumbled with the deer, not even trying to hide their tracks, one of them muttered something about cleaning up the population and keeping the area safe. It didn't sit right. Were they talking about wildlife or something else? They had no hunting permits, no commission, and no explanation that made any real sense. And yet, they acted like they belonged there, like this was normal. But we knew better. Something deeper was going on here, and we were only just scratching the surface. After that day, things only got more complicated. We started asking around, neighbors, friends, anyone who might know if this was just some weird hunting incident or something bigger. That's when rumors started to surface. Some people whispered that the HOA was trying to control more than just property lines, that they wanted to manage the entire wildlife population around here, maybe even influence local hunting laws unofficially. Others mentioned past disputes about land boundaries that never made it into the public record. One neighbor told us the HOA board had a reputation for bending rules, using their positions to settle personal scores, but the idea they'd take rifles onto private land without permission, that was next level. Still, the sheriff's calm, almost resigned attitude puzzled us. Why wasn't he stepping in harder? Was he involved or just turning a blind eye? Meanwhile, we found ourselves caught in the middle. Our quiet life was turning into a mess of questions and suspicions. Our family was uneasy, kids asking why the people with guns were on our property, and friends warning us to be careful about who we trust around here. We kept recording everything, trying to document the truth before it slipped away. But every time we thought we had answers, more questions popped up. Who really has control around here? And what lengths will they go to keep it? The deeper we dug, the darker this whole situation felt. Days turned into nights, filled with restless thoughts and unanswered questions. The tension in the neighborhood was thick. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors, glancing nervously whenever the HOA board members drove by. We kept replaying that moment in the woods, the image of them with rifles, the deer, and the sheriff standing there watching. It didn't add up. Then strange things started happening around our property. Footprints near the fence, unfamiliar trucks parked just out of sight, and once the trail camera we'd set up disappeared overnight. It felt like someone was watching us, maybe trying to intimidate us into staying silent. We weren't just dealing with a hunting dispute anymore. This was something bigger: power, control, and maybe even corruption. We tried reaching out to the sheriff again, but every conversation felt guarded. He gave vague answers and changed the subject quickly. It was clear he wasn't just a bystander. He was part of a bigger game we didn't fully understand. The community meetings became even more hostile. The HOA board denied everything, accusing us of stirring trouble and breaking rules ourselves. But we knew the truth was buried beneath their polished words and fake smiles. One night, as we reviewed our footage, a chilling realization hit. There was something on camera we hadn't noticed before, something that could change everything. But before we could act, a sudden knock at the door sent chills down our spines. Who was out there? What did they want? And were we finally about to face the storm we'd been bracing for? We cautiously opened the door to find no one there, just a plain envelope slipped under it. Inside was a single photo, the deer from that day, but this time, someone had scrawled a warning across it in red ink. It read, "Stay out of it, or next time it won't be just a deer." Our hearts pounded. Whoever was behind this wanted us silenced, and they were willing to get serious. But that wasn't the only shock waiting for us. When we looked back through the footage, we noticed something strange. One of the men from the HOA board wasn't acting alone. Hidden in the shadows, just beyond the clearing, was a third figure, someone we recognized. It was the deputy sheriff, the one who usually worked with the sheriff we knew. He appeared to be part of the whole operation, helping cover up their illegal hunting and trespassing. This revelation changed everything. It wasn't just a clash with the HOA anymore. It was a fight against a system protecting them from consequences. We realized that the local law enforcement, the very people we trusted to keep us safe, might be working against us. The stakes had gone from worrying about trespassing to fearing for our safety and the truth itself. As the tension built, we knew we had to decide. Do we expose what we found and risk everything, or back down and let them continue unchecked? The night grew colder, and the line between friend and foe blurred more than ever. The pressure was unbearable, but we knew we couldn't stay silent any longer. Armed with the photos, videos, and every piece of evidence we gathered, we finally confronted the sheriff at his office. At first, he tried to brush it off, but as we laid everything out, the trespassing, the rifles, the deputy's involvement, his facade cracked. He admitted there had been a long-standing secret deal between some HOA members and a few local officers to control hunting in the area, keeping it quiet to avoid public backlash. The illegal hunting wasn't just about wildlife. It was about power, control over land, and protecting certain interests. But what surprised us most was his unexpected offer. He wanted to help us expose the whole operation, saying he'd been pressured into silence but was ready to make things right. Feeling a cautious sense of hope, we teamed up to bring this hidden truth into the light. We worked with external authorities and media, and soon the story blew up, shaking the community to its core. HOA members resigned, investigations started, and the deputy sheriff was suspended. Just when it seemed justice was finally within reach, we got a call from someone claiming to have even more damning information, details that could blow the case wide open and reach beyond our small town. It was a warning, but also an invitation to keep digging deeper. The fight wasn't over. It was just getting started. After the dust settled, life slowly began to return to normal around our property. The HOA board was shaken, and the community started asking tougher questions about how much power local groups should really have. We felt a mix of relief and caution. Relief that the illegal hunting and trespassing were finally exposed, but cautious because the warning call reminded us this was bigger than we thought. The sheriff's willingness to help was a surprise, showing that even in messy situations, people can choose to do the right thing. Our family grew closer through it all, learning that standing up for what's right sometimes means facing real risks. The neighbors who had stayed quiet started speaking up, and together, we made sure rules about hunting and land use would be clearer and enforced fairly. Looking back, the most important lesson was about community and vigilance. We realized that protecting your land means more than fences and signs. It means staying aware, speaking out, and supporting each other. The story isn't just about trespassing or illegal hunting. It's about standing up when things feel wrong and knowing you're not alone. If there's one thing we hope you take away from this, it's to trust your instincts and keep pushing for the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might get. Sometimes, that's the only way to protect what matters most.